there.
Good morning. The Tuesday, October 21st, 2025, regular Board of County Commissioners meeting will now be called to order. We'll begin with a moment of silent reflection for our first responders and members of the armed forces. We will then be provided with an invocation by none other than Stan Bowling from Grace Spring Covenant Baptist Church, and Commissioner Susan Adams will lead us in the pledge. Please rise, remove your cover.
Lord God, we come before you together, just as you've said in your word, to draw close to you. And we remember what the Apostle Paul said in Acts 17. He was addressing a crowd in Athens, and he said, "You are not far from each of us." And how could that be otherwise? You're holy, you're pure, you're just, but you're also compassionate and merciful toward us. You tell us that. And you allow us to approach you together. So that's what we're doing right now. Thank you for the opportunity to do that. You tell us in Psalm 19 that creation itself talks about you without words every day throughout all the earth. And from time to time we can experience some of your power, your beauty, your brilliance that goes so far beyond our own natural and artificial intelligence. It's amazing. And if we're wise, we stop and we pause, and there's a sacred moment. You say in your word that your word is pure and wise. It's life-giving, it's sweeter than honey, it's more precious than gold. That's what we should be investing in. And so we do that. We remember some of your word this morning together. In Psalm 46, you tell us you are our refuge, our help in times of trouble. Though the earth shakes, mountains fall into the sea, waves crash, where you are is joy and life. And then we come to the end of Psalm 46, and we are told, be still. Be still. Remember, recognize that I am God. That's just thank you for that. So we just take a moment right now, and we're still in your presence. We look to you for guidance. We need it, but you're who we go to. Thank you so much for that. We take a moment to ask you to guide what we think, what we feel, decisions we make, how we act. And so we lay all that before you now. And we give you our commissioners, our Board of County Commissioners and staff, decisions that will be made. We ask that what is done here today and what's executed from the decisions made here today would be something that would please you. We want to follow you. Help us do so. In your name, amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Thank you, Stan. At this time, do we have any additions, deletions to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, we're going to pull 12A and we'll bring it back to the next meeting.
Thank you,
I'm
sir.
asked to
That's
verify one thing.
item
What are the meeting
12A.
dates?
Anything else?
Move to approve as amended.
We have a motion by Commissioner Moss, seconded by Commissioner Adams. Anything further? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We're off to a good start. Now even a better start. We have proclamation and presentations. A presentation honoring the 2025-2026 Indian River County Fire Rescue Lieutenant, Sergeant, Engineer, Fire Medic, Inspector, and Unit of the Year. Captain Joe Airman will have the honors of the presentation. Please come on down. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is definitely an honor that I've got to do this every year. And it's more special to me because even though I've been separated now, retired 10 years from the best job in the world, it's good to see that some of the people that started under me and with me are here today. And there may be a story or two I have with a couple of them, but we'll wait till I get done with the good part here. But everybody else that's here, even the ones that I maybe didn't work with, it just goes to show what kind of class, good people we have here. So with that, let me read the proclamation and then we'll move on to the other stuff. This is a proclamation honoring the 2025-2026 Indian River County Fire Rescue Lieutenant, Sergeant, Engineer, Fire Medic, Inspector, and Unit of the Year. Whereas on December 17th, 1923, local volunteers established the first fire department in Indian River County. And whereas over the course of the past century, the department transitioned from volunteer to career personnel, from a department crewed solely by trained firefighters to today's crews who are dual certified in firefighting and emergency medical response, as well as being trained in a multitude of special disaster response scenarios on both land and sea. Whereas in 2021, the leadership of Indian River County Fire Rescue instituted the long-standing tradition of annually recognizing those among their ranks who perform their duties in a manner that exemplifies a competency reflecting the highest of standards, supports fellow fire medics in achieving their goals, supports the department's policies, and regularly demonstrates the ability to lead or follow based upon the existing circumstances. Whereas Indian River County Fire Rescue is proud to announce the award recipients for 2025-2026, Fire Medic of the Year, Luis Bustamante, Rescue Sergeant of the Year, Allison Baird, Engineer of the Year, Nicole Morris, Lieutenant of the Year, Jason Judson, in the unit, Fire Rescue, Christopher Matherly, Justin Gonzalez, and Julian Catalano, and the Inspector of the Year, Alex Norrat. Now, therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County, Florida, that the board supports the efforts of our fire rescue department by publicly commend those members whose dedication, loyalty, productivity, and professionalism have been recognized by their co-workers. Be it further proclaimed that the Board of County Commissioners is grateful to all our Indian River County first responders and the valuable services they provide to the residents of our community. Adopted this 21st day of October, 2025, and signed by all 5 county commissioners. So, yes, this is a good thing. This is a good day, and I'm proud to do this. And for Dave, before you say a few words, let me just add a couple of insights on this. That, as I said before, that we started this in 2021, and it's something that's very important to the unit as a whole to recognize those that excel and set the standards. So I'm not going to say, though, early in a couple of them's career, I was a little concerned about them. But you know what? I always knew there was great potential in at least 3 or 4 of them that I know there really well. And they did so well. We had the one that was the smallest and the most petite right there that moved forward and became an engineer and one of the darn best paramedics I've ever seen. She excelled, Nicole excelled tremendously, and she sets the examples and takes these, new, young, strapping, big guys and puts them in their place real quick. So there's no doubt about that. We have Jason Judson, who is now Captain Judson, I would add, so congratulations for that. He's always set the standard very high for him and his personnel, and he endured a lot of practical jokes and a lot of kidding from a few of our fellows, but, you know, that makes you a better person. So, and of course, there's the Ox. We all know who the Ox is. That would be Mr. Matherly, Christopher Matherly, one of our best people. He's an excellent paramedic. He's fabulous at training the new folks that we have and making sure the job's done correctly. And I'm no doubt that there's still a big future for him ahead in the fire rescue because he does help set the example. And Alex is very involved in the community and with his crew and what he does with regards to our fire prevention. So it's just so great to see this, and I'm very proud of each one of you. So, Dave?
Thank you, Commissioner, Mr. Chair. I just want to thank you for taking the time today to recognize our annual award winners for 24, 25, and 26. These outstanding individuals have been selected by either their peers, their command staff, or both. They embody the mission of our department to serve the citizens and visitors of this great county. Each award winner has demonstrated exceptional dedication, whether it be as a steadfast member who consistently goes above and beyond, or as someone who made a significant impact during a response to save someone's life. Selecting these individuals each year feels like selecting your favorite child. It's hard to do, but we strive to select the best of the best. I salute every member of our department, every man and woman out there doing the job every day. I salute them all, but we thank you for your attention to this today, and thank you very much for supporting our department each and every day. Thank you, Commissioners. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Chief. Well, this is a very onerous occasion, and it's great to see everybody finally accoutred in uniform. And I want everybody to see these individuals, and including the lineup in the back, because I sincerely hope that you do not have to press 911 and be visited by these individuals. But by the off chance you are, you're in the best possible hands in this great nation. We have the finest right here. And I want to say thank you for what you do, your commitment every day.
Thank you.
Now, at this point, if anybody doesn't have anything further, we'd like to have a nice photograph of this momentous occasion, and I'd like to call upon, Captain, the rest of the team to come on down after they get their initial picture. Let's continue this tradition. For the communicators.
One at a time, or all of us at the same time?
Chief, you did a great job, but I think they made it easy for you.
I don't believe anything.
Thanks for your great work. Thank you. Keep training.
Sorry. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Good job.
And I'd like to take this time to thank the families of these fine individuals, because they work countless hours, long shifts, and the family is affected by their dedication to their duty to serve our community. Thank you. Well, move on to minutes. We have approval of the minutes for the regular meeting of August 19th, 2025, which I know you all read infinitum. We have a motion by Vice Chairman Laws, seconded by Commissioner Adams. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. 2 for 2. Informational items, we have a notice of extensions of the contract for the construction of the required roadway improvements, right-of-way, for project for Wisteria Walk PD. There's no further action to be taken on that. We also have the Children's Service Advisory vacancy. Commissioner Adams, would you like to?
This is actually the District 5 appointee, so Commissioner Moss.
I think we're just looking for applications at this point.
Okay, are we seeking other input from the community, or do we have ample?
I think anyone who would like to apply,
So we'll still encourage?
absolutely.
Thank you.
And
Under
I believe you
review.
can apply on the website.
Yes, the application.
That's indianriver.gov. The application's on the website.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll now move on to public comment. If there's any agenda item that you might not be here later on and wish to be able to speak about any agenda item, again, other than with the exception of public hearings, this is your opportunity. 2 microphones. Thank you. Having given ample opportunity, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Commissioners.
Move approval, Mr. Chair.
Second. We have a motion by Vice Chairman Law, seconded by myself. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. 3 for 3. Now we'll move on to public items. We have a public hearing. And that public hearing is item 11A1. And,
I believe we skipped 10A, Commissioner.
oh, I didn't hit 10. Constitutional offices and governmental agencies. That's item 10A. Just prior to that, so that's Indian River County Sheriff's Office fiscal year 2025, 2026 budget amendment. First up, budget amendment. Go ahead. I don't see the sheriff here.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm just going to recommend that you delay this, put this off, table it until such time all issues concerning the budget are resolved and we have clear direction.
I'll make that a motion, sir.
Well, that, that being said, I know there was a lot of concern last night at the meeting, and the Board of County Commissioners and the Indian River County Sheriff's Office are never getting divorced. All right, it's a partnership, always. I know we're going through a tumultuous period of time right now, but, and I appreciate the county administrator's observation. It's our assumption at this point that the sheriff's department will be going forward with a lawsuit or legal action of some kind. That being said, I would like us to consider this, I myself would support it, as a gesture of goodwill. What it is for the community is it's a request, it's a budget amendment, it's a request for $99,000, $18,000 for stainless steel inmate security toilets, $68,000 for Willow locks and electronic swipes, which will allow their system to be safer and more reliable, and $13,000 for warehouse refrigeration. Evidently, the plate flooring has buckled, and that could cause someone to trip and fall. So I would ask that we consider this. I ask for your comments, if any.
We
Mr.
do
Moss,
have a,
I understand you and I agree. We have to work together, but that's kind of been where the ball's been dropped. And until we can clear this up, we don't know if we're going to have to pay, we're not going to have to pay, and money's going to have to come out of reserves. It's not, I think we need to plan accordingly. He just got accredited for the jail, by the way, passed 100%, it sounds like. I don't know what the big issue is, and I think that we just need to have some sort of resolve as to which way this is going before we, spend the taxpayers' money. This doesn't appear to be an emergency item, so
Well,
I would recommend that we still
And I
go
understand,
with the
I
county
understand what you're
administrator's
saying.
recommendation.
Yeah.
okay, so we have a motion
Yes, to accept the county administrator's recommendation.
and a second? Yes, sir. So it's a motion by Commissioner Airman, seconded by Vice Chairman Law. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed?
Opposed, nay.
Motion carries 3-2 with Commissioner Moss and myself dissenting. We'll move on. Now we'll get to the public item, which is item 11A. And that item is a quasi-judicial hearing. So that next item is the first public hearing for 2 public hearings for the proposed developers agreement between Indian River County and Pulte Home Company for Emerson Oaks. This is a quasi-judicial proceeding. The parties involved with the proceeding are Indian River County and Pulte Home Company, LLC, also known as the applicant. At this time, I need to ask commissioners to disclose any ex parte communications, site visits, or independent investigations, and I'll begin with the left.
Yes, well, I got the traffic study yesterday afternoon, but I didn't have time to read it, so I hope that counts. We were a little busy yesterday.
I didn't notice.
I got the traffic study, but I didn't read it, so I'm just saying it, that's all.
Thank you.
I don't know if I need to.
Commissioner Adams.
No, none.
Commissioner Airman.
My knowledge.
None to my knowledge. At this time, we will confirm that each commissioner have an open mind and are able to base their decisions on the evidence presented and applicable law. Commissioner Airman.
Can and will.
Can and will.
Can and will.
Can and will.
And I will.
Thank you. At this time, we will open the public hearing. And, Madam Clerk, may I ask you to swear in any and all witnesses that anticipate to be able to be speaking during this quasi-judicial hearing?
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Thank you. We'll now begin with a presentation.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. Susan Prado, Deputy County Attorney from Indian River County Attorney's Office. This particular item is the first public hearing of 2 public hearings required by Florida statute, section 163.3225, for the approval of a proposed developers agreement. Pulte Home Company has come to us in seeking a developers agreement for Emerson Oaks subdivision. This particular subdivision is a planned development, and it's consisting of 171 single-family lots to be located on the southwest corner of 43rd Ave and 43rd Avenue Southwest and 13th Street Southwest. The project is proposed to be constructed in 3 separate phases. Phase 1A consists of the model home row with 7 lots, the project entrance on 13th Street Southwest and the adjacent stormwater pond. Phase 1B will include 70 lots, the amenity center, and infrastructure commensurate with the phase. And Phase 2 will include 94 lots, the remainder of the residential, which includes the remainder of the residential development, the project entrance on 17th Street, and the necessary utilities to support the Phase 2 homes. As part of the negotiation process, the developer does understand that they have some required improvements and also some improvements that they are giving as part of a benefit to the county in exchange for some perhaps items that they have had waived or set back. Some of those, if you look down below on the agreement, it will note that there's dedication of right-of-way. There's 0.94 acres of right-of-way that's along the 13th Street southwest frontage for future street alignment. This is to allow 13th Street to align with what is lying east of it, so we can have interconnectivity. 100 feet of right-of-way along the 17th Street southwest frontage of the project. 50 feet of right-of-way along the entire 43rd Avenue southwest frontage of the project. This would allow for widening there of 43rd Avenue, allowing for the ability to have more cars and make it a little easier to get through than, I believe, just the 2 lanes. The required traffic improvements, there are intersection and turn lane improvements that will be provided by the developer as well. Those improvements are westbound left turn lane on 13th Street southwest into the project's entrance, a southbound right turn lane on 43rd Ave southwest at 13th Street southwest, and a northbound left turn lane on 43rd Avenue southwest at 13th Street southwest. An eastbound left and right turn lane on 13th Street southwest at 43rd Avenue during Phase 1B, and paving and drainage improvements on 17th Street southwest along the project site's entire frontage, and an eastbound left and right turn lane on 17th Street southwest at 43rd Avenue southwest. There's also to be a 17th Street southwest bridge contribution. The developer shall contribute their fair share, and this was calculated by their cost estimate that was approved by downstairs in engineering. The developer shall contribute 3.7% of funding to the future of the 17th Street Southwest Bridge crossing. As noted, the traffic analysis could be provided upon request as provided to Commissioner Moss. This particular item, there's a budgetary cost for recording the agreement of $171.50. There was also costs of publications for the 2 public hearings that were estimated to be $372.48. The previous board actions on this is that the board actually did approve the plan development for this particular subdivision back on December 3rd, 2024. And at this time, we are asking that the board consider this item, open the public hearing for comment and for hearing from the applicant. And then at the close of the public hearing that we move forward to have the second public hearing on November 4th. If you have any questions for me, I am available. Thank you, commissioners.
Does the commissioners have any questions?
I have a
Mr.
question.
Moss?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question on the, and I don't know that it's not a legal question, but I have a question on the stormwater treatment facilities and also on the impact fees. With regard to the stormwater treatment facilities, and I'm looking at page 7 of the developers agreement. Under stormwater treatment facilities, number 2, item number 2, it says treated to minimum applicable St. John's, Florida Water Management District water quality standards. Why is it minimum applicable? Couldn't it be something more like best practices? I don't know, minimum applicable does not sound appropriate to me.
Thank you, Commissioner Moss. That particular question is I can tell you that at this point in time, we can't give them anything or require them to do anything that is more of them than what is the minimum required. If that is what is required by St. John's, at least from a legal standpoint, I can't answer from a storm drainage standpoint, then that is what we are allowed to require of them. We can't ask them to give any more than what they are required to.
All right, and number 4, it's maintained by an HOA. As we know, we've had issues. We've had Water's Edge come in here about the culvert and, discuss with more than once and discuss it for hours. So I'm wondering, what is the legal mechanism that will occur that will relate to enforcement of this. You know, like how is well, there's no HOA now, I guess, but when the HOA is created, how will they let people know, especially people buying, you know, years in? You know, how will they know that they're responsible and not the county?
Yes, so, and I'm sorry, you're saying number 4.
Number 4, it says maintained by an HOA.
Okay.
So the county's not maintaining it, the HOA is.
So that is supposed to be it is the obligation of the home buyer, the prospective home buyer, to read any and all covenants and restrictions. It's disclosed on, or it should be disclosed by their real estate agent at the time of closing. So that is how they are noticed. Those items and documents are recorded in the public record. I don't see a culvert in this particular one that I think
No, I just
we would
offer
be.
that as an example, because we've dealt with, you know, things of that nature where somebody buys and then they, you know, it's years later and they think that the county is responsible when it's actually the HOA or POA
Yes, ma'am, and that would be in the
individuals.
That would be in the HOA documents that has their responsibility. On the plats, anything that's dedicated to them, they're required per our county code to accept those items in the HOA docs and the maintenance responsibility for those items. So that's where they would find that. If it's not in the plat, it will most definitely be in the HOA documents.
All right, well, I hope that, you know, I hope going forward, and maybe this is something that we'll discuss Thursday evening at the special meeting having to do with plan development. And for the community, we do have a special meeting coming up this Thursday at 6 o'clock, and it's a joint meeting with the Planning and Zoning Commission here. So, you know, this is the kind of thing where I think we need, you know, a mechanism of enforcement in the future, you know, just to let people know, because people, you know, 10, 20 years later, it's not going to be my problem, it probably won't be any of our problem, but it will be, it seems to be a problem going forward, because we're being faced now with aging infrastructure, which is not the responsibility of the county, it's an HOA or POA. The last question has to do with impact fees, and that is that impact fees are not charged, I guess, for what is perceived as public benefit. And what is perceived as public benefit, that's another thing, by the way, that we'll be discussing on Thursday evening. So you're all welcome to join us. That public benefit can be a bit subjective. You know, true, for me, I'll just speak for myself, true public benefit is something that benefits the public apart from or independent of the people who are living in this particular development. So, you know, like a right-of-way, would we need the right-of-way if they weren't developing this property?
So those items that were, the way that that's distinguished, Commissioner, is that if there's something, for example, and I couldn't tell you about the right-of-way in this particular one, but I can tell you that if it's something that is a required improvement under our code, that's not a public that's not a public benefit. It's anything above and beyond what they're required to put in that's not in our code. So if in our code, they're expected to dedicate, and I will come back to the right-of-way example, if they're expected to dedicate 25 feet of right-of-way, but they give us 50 feet of right-of-way, that extra 25 feet is in essence the public benefit, because they are not required to give us they're not required to give us that. And that is under even Florida statute, they're only required to give us what they're required to give us. We're not allowed to ask for extra unless we give either monetary compensation or impact fee credits for a dollar-for-dollar basis. At this point, that's what a public benefit is anything that's above and beyond. So even if it is next to the development, if it's something that they would not be required to do and something the county would have to do, but we're having them do it, it's a public benefit.
You know, since public benefit is tied to impact fees, and again, we can discuss this Thursday night, but I think it should actually appear in the documents that we look at, where public benefit is a section of this, and it lists what we are defining as public benefits, once we've established that. And I understand there are state statutes you have to follow on some of it. So was there something beyond the right-of-way? I know that there were several right-of-ways. Was there something beyond that?
Yes, ma'am. And if you'll give me just a minute, I believe the Director Ryan Sweeney's here and can list a little bit more with detail
Mr.
about the
Chair,
actual
Commissioner
public
Moss,
benefits.
for the record, Ryan Sweeney, Acting Planning Development Services Director. All of the public benefits, all of the project required improvements and those determined to be over and above have already been decided upon and hashed out in the PD approval. This is merely a contractual exchange of making those things happen through the developers agreement. But yes, the right-of-way dedications, it specifies what's the minimum and then what's the over and above. Same thing for like the bridge contribution and a number of other items. Those were all hashed out, if you will, in the original PD approval. This is just making those things happen with the county.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I just want to address maybe the attorney wishes to elaborate, but one of the countless documents that you sign off once a development has turned to, as required by state law, to an HOA, that is one of the documents that you have to review and sign when you're purchasing a home in the community. So it is fully disclosed, and their obligation and commitment is also, is that correct, Counselor?
That is correct, sir.
And oftentimes when people are purchasing a home, a house, to turn into a home, it is somewhat burdensome. I've heard many times that we're signing multiple documents when, wow, I have writer's cramp. They're signing their name, but they need to be reading. And I think that was one of the shortcomings of the concern that you shared on a previous matter, that one of the documents are lengthy, but it's all elaborated in the agreement at what the HOA is responsible for, what the commitment is. There's no ambiguity. Just wanted to point it out. I don't know if we don't have to make a regulation on it.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
if I can just add to this conversation a little bit. John, on Thursday, when we have our PD workshop, can we have a discussion on what the PD process is from start to finish? Because there's multiple steps in approving a PD, and there's multiple conversations, and I think because it comes back to us several times, and planning and zoning too, it would be nice to kind of see that flow chart of how that's decided, because my understanding is the discussion about what a PD is going to look like happens at that original PD approval. And then, Commissioner Moss, I know the enforcement of some of those things is always a concern of yours. And then this developer's agreement is how you take what was approved and codify it into a document that can be enforced because it's contractual. And I believe, as we learned in a prior PD, that the attorney's office actually reviews those developers' agreements on a yearly basis, which is a statutory requirement. So if we can just kind of walk through, and Ryan, how that works, so we know when we kind of need to engage on certain topics of conversation, so we don't miss an opportunity if there is a concern to have that conversation when it can be changed.
Yes, ma'am, that can be done.
Thank you.
I think it's already intended to be done, but yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Anything else? Well, seeing no further, before we get to presentation by the applicant, does the applicant have any questions of staff?
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Logan Wellmeyer. I'm an attorney with Dean Mead. We have offices here in Vero Beach and then also in Fort Pierce. I'm here representing Pulte Homes. I'm joined by our traffic consultant, and we're here and happy to answer any other questions that you might have. I want to thank Mrs. Prado and Mr. Sweeney. I think that they gave you a bunch of great information. I'm happy to fill in any gaps, but Mrs. Moss, I would say, The HOA, as was stated, the HOA documents are going to be in the public record. They're going to be in every purchase agreement. The purchase agreements are going to come with those documents. Everybody's going to have a chance to read all of them. But I think probably more importantly, they're going to have meetings regularly. They're going to have assessments that everyone who lives in the community pays regularly. They're all going to know that there's an HOA, that they are beholden to the HOA. They have to, please the HOA. I don't think they're ever going to be confused about whether or not the county has an obligation to fix their internal roads, for example. And if I may also about the public benefit, it's my understanding, and Luke can correct you, he's smarter than I am and he knows what he's doing with traffic much better than I do. But it's my understanding that the turn lanes that Pulte's going to be creating will essentially take care of any impact that they're going to have to the area. The additional benefit is going to be the right-of-way that they're going to give on 13th and 43rd, which is going to allow for a realignment of 13th, which is, I think, necessitated or a portion of the Indrio Point project that's already been approved. And then south off of 17th, we're paying our fair share of the bridge that's going to connect 17th and make it a thoroughfare from east to west. So those are not required based on the impact that our project's going to have. Those are additional benefits that Pulte is giving to the county as a good partner. But if there's any other questions, we're happy to answer them. And like I said, I have Luke here, and he can answer any question you have with respect to traffic.
Anything further? At this time, do you wish to have any further presentation?
No, sir.
Earlier in the meeting, I have a habit of walking through the audience and saying hello to people and greet all of our attendees. And you may recall that I approached you and I asked, oh, nice to meet you, and you have anything to do? And you said, no, I'm just a concerned citizen. I didn't know you were the attorney.
Well, in my defense, sir, I just thought you were a gentleman.
But he is.
Well,
Can you now
I didn't
confirm that
know.
now?
No, sir, I just didn't know you were the chairman or a commissioner. I just thought you were being very nice, and I like to be gregarious with people who are very nice, so.
Well, that's just evidence that we had no communication whatsoever. But thank you for your cordial concern. With that, so you have no further presentation. Does anybody have any question of the applicant at this time? Everybody's got their own microphone. Hearing none. County staff, do we have any questions of the applicant? Given ample opportunity, we'll move on to any input from the general public.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Counselor, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. My name's Lisa Sinersky, fifth generation native, and I just popped in, but I believe we are talking about development and potential new development. I hear the word development, I hear the word benefit. I don't think they go hand in hand right now. We have a lot of new development. I just am curious if these homes are being filled, if the new development that we are seeing is actually necessary. So I'm not really 100% sure. As I said, I just popped in. I've been trying to listen throughout my workday. But I hear the word benefit. I think we're talking about the benefit of maybe opening some roadways or giving us, I don't know, more access on our roadways. But if we're talking about development, we're talking about more people, which is just gonna not be beneficial to our community right now. We have a lot of homes, a lot of new development. I am curious where these people are that are filling up all this new development. I know we have many people coming here on a daily, weekly basis, but as a longtime resident, as a fifth generation native here, I know I'm speaking for many other citizens. We don't need new development in such a large scale. We want neighborhoods. We want the community that we grew up with. So I can't help but when I hear new development and hundreds of homes and a whole plot of, acres being wiped out to put in homes, when we have plenty of homes in my neighborhood that are for rent, for sale, and however many hundreds and hundreds of new developments or new homes we're seeing, are they filled? I don't know if there's some kind of regulation we can put in place to say when we have these homes filled or when we have the majority of them occupied, then we can start opening up the opportunity for more new development. That's all I can say right now. Again, I'm just kind of last minute, but I hear development, I hear benefits. I don't think they go hand in hand right now. Not for our wildlife, not for the people who already live here, reside here, work here. It just doesn't make sense in my mind. That's my 2 cents for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? At this time, we'll move on to the final presentation by county staff. Do we have any?
No, sir, at this point, we just ask that the public hearing be closed and that we go ahead and note that the next public hearing will be on November 4th, 2025 at 9:01 a.m. or soon thereafter. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Anything further? Brian, you have anything? If not, does the applicant have anything further?
Yes, sir.
At this time, I want to ensure that all documents and tangible evidence, if any, have been admitted into evidence and are in the hands of the clerk. Madam Clerk? Thank you. In addition, county staff agenda materials are automatically admitted into evidence unless there is objection. Seeing none, at this time, we'll close the public hearing. Commissioners. Everybody's got their own.
Move approval.
Second. We have a motion by Commissioner Adams, seconded by myself. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Next item is approval for a resolution establishing the Indian River County HCV program, 5-year plan, and certifications and administrative plan.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Stacy Bush, and I serve as the Housing Services Manager for Indian River County. We are here today to request approval of the Housing Choice Voucher Program's 5-year PHA plan and administrative plan, as required by HUD. During the public review period, one individual came in to review the administrative plan. However, no comments or recommendations were submitted. Our Housing Services Division continues to administer 439 vouchers within Indian River County, providing housing assistance to nearly 800 individuals. This includes children, seniors, veterans, and individuals with disabilities. I am pleased to share with you that I have submitted a request for an additional 10 vouchers for our Veterans Program, and I am currently waiting for HUD's response. This request was strongly supported by letters of support from the West Palm Beach VA Medical Center and our local continuum of care. If approved, these vouchers will allow us to serve even more veterans in need of stable housing. Staff respectfully recommends that the board open the public hearing to receive and consider any comments and then vote to approve the resolution, the 5-year PHA plan, and the administrative plan, along with the required HUD certifications. Thank you for your ongoing support of our housing programs, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Does anybody have any questions? We have no questions. this is a public hearing. So we'll open up a public hearing.
Hello again. So I am just really inspired and interested in what's happening in our county in all different areas. Again, this is something new to me to be this involved in sitting in these meetings, but I just want to say that I have worked with veterans in the service dog arena for a few years, and I support, sorry, I didn't catch your name, but I support what you're asking for. I know it's a big need in our county, and we have seen the need for housing for not only veterans, but for other individuals. So I think that's a great request, and I hope that that can be something we support. Our veterans really, really need us, and now I think more than ever. So I think that's great.
Thank you, Ms. Sinoski. Having given ample opportunity and seeing no further, public hearing.
Mr. Chair, with my involvement with SHIP and Commissioner Adams' involvement in other issues surrounding by housing, and I recognize that we heard this matter previously, and I think they do a fantastic job, and I move approval.
Second. We have a motion by Vice Chairman Lork, seconded by myself. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
We'll now move on to public notice items. Counselor?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Chairman. This is just a notice of scheduled public hearing for Budget Amendment 6 for the November 4th, 2025 meeting. So please be advised that the following public hearing has been scheduled for board consideration November 4th, 2025. Consideration of a miscellaneous Budget Amendment 6. Once published, the Budget Amendment 6 will contain proposed increases to the overall fiscal year 24-25 budget for the board to consider. This public notice item is provided for the board's information, and there is no action needed at this time.
Thank you, Counselor. We'll go back to the agenda. Again, item 12A was delayed to at least the next meeting for now by staff. And we'll move on to 12B, which is the ratification of a collective bargaining agreement between Indian River County Emergency Services District and Indian River County Firefighters Paramedics Association, Local 2201, IAFF, effective October 1st, 2025 through September 30th, 2027. Two-year commitment.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. We're glad to have this on the agenda today, and just want to say I want to thank both the negotiations team with the IAFF, Mark, Kristen, Brewer, and the rest of the team. I want to thank our team, Dave Johnson, Mike Zito, Suzanne Boyle, and then Benton Wood. So what you have attached for your consideration is, as you mentioned, Mr. Chair, this is a two-year agreement. It does provide for a 4% general wage increase for years 25-26 and 26-27, beginning in the first full pay period in October 25 and then subsequently October 2026. Eligible bargaining unit employees will advance in their step plan in April 26 and April 27 respectively. It also increases the annual paramedic incentive. We're stepping it up to be more competitive with some of our surrounding departments. So it's increasing in the first year from $600 to $6,500, beginning with the first pay period of October 25, and then it will subsequently increase to $7,000 with the first pay period in October 2026. As you're aware, we will be implementing the 3-week Kelly Day, which will reduce the biweekly work average from 104 hours to 96 hours. while maintaining the same annual base amount. The implementation is expected to occur by March 27th, 2006. And as noted in the agenda item, it would require 19 additional fire medics to be hired and trained to provide for this. We are increasing the number of special operation incentives and increasing the incentive amount and adding a second tier group of special operation incentives. And to assist management and to ensure proper supervision, more so per protocol and procedures, we are adding an incentive of $2 per hour for the rescue sergeant incentive pay. And then there's also the addition of a $2,500 annual incentive paid biweekly for our dual certified employees who are working a non-shift position. As you are aware, we do have a tuition assistance in the existing agreement that's increasing from $50,000 to $75,000. And the other change with that, a portion of it will be dedicated to the paramedic program for those employees that need to complete their paramedic program and attain Florida paramedic certification. And on that note, I want to specifically bring to your attention on page 66 of the agreement or page 810 of your agenda item under Article 34, Section 34.2D. There is a Scrivener's error. It's at the top of the page in parentheses, and it concerns the new hires and the timing period in which they must attain their paramedic certification. It should read 36 months. It says 24 months. That's a change. And I think the other thing I would say is with regard to the tuition reimbursement, there is a payback provision, 5 years, and it would be prorated if somebody was to resign within that 5 years. The IFF, excuse me, the IFF Local 2021 has ratified this agreement. Again, we are truly pleased and excited, and we are appreciative of their hard work at the table. We want to thank you, the board, for your diligence and your leadership and your direction as we navigated these waters. This provides that we have our battalion chiefs under contract for last year and our rank and file under contract this year, and we even have our Teamsters. So we have all of our unions under contract. With your ratification of this, I'll return it to the board for your consideration. Staff respectfully recommends approval of the agreement and requests that the Board of County Commissioner authorize its chairman to sign the full agreement. And I do have Mike, Dave, and Suzanne here if you have any specific questions.
Well, thank you, County Administrator. And in listening, I want you to know that I just want to reflect back to another recent meeting where it was pointed out about all of the conversations that took place or the commitment that took place, the trail to get us where we are. A very fair and fashionable agreement that was ratified, and I certainly want to thank every individual that worked tirelessly on this process. There were many meetings. We've had our own meetings, and we had a collection of shade meetings, and we also had a lot of negotiation time and decision-making, understanding, but more importantly, it was all about communication. And I want to say thank you to all who participated to get us where we are today.
Mr. Chairman, well said. Yes, I've, since I did this in my previous career, I've done this now since I've been a commissioner, been involved on the other side. And this is really a good agreement. Not only with the Kelly days, which were probably the big thing, but that's something that's needed. And I think in the future, we'll have to look at it maybe doing something even more. But right now, those are way overdue, and I think it's a great thing. But what really I like is personally is the paramedic incentive pay to go to school to help somebody pay for school. Because a lot of times you have these young people that they can afford part of it, they can't afford all of it. And the fact that we're willing to do that and have an agreement with them, if they do leave, we recoup our money. But the fact that we can expedite and help their training to get this done is big. And I'm really, really very glad to see that, because that is an art in its own, as we heard earlier today. So I do too also want to thank Dave, Mike, Suzanne, Benton, John, especially for his expertise in this and making this move forward. So with that, sir, I'll approve staff recommendation to approve the contract between us and the IAFF Local 2201.
We have a motion by Commissioner Airman, seconded by myself. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, I would just add that when we talk about collective bargaining, it's exactly what it is. We bargain collectively, and that entails thorough communication, and it also oftentimes entails one side not getting everything they want and one side being us not getting everything we want. But it's a very, very proud day in Indian River County to have this resolved. We surge forward with the men and women that we recognized this morning. Thank you.
It's a careful balance, looking at what's available, what has been allocated through taxpayer dollars, and then to negotiate with people that commit their lives to the service of the lives of individuals that reside in the county. And I think this agreement, furthermore, has a great appreciation for what the citizens can bear in order to have the service that they desperately need and is provided. And again, we looked at earlier today the recognition of these individuals. They couldn't wait to get back to work. So, thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Then we'll move on to item 12C, which is 2026 Indian River County legislative priorities. Good morning, Kathy Copeland.
Good morning. For the record, Kathy Copeland, Communications and Legislative Affairs Manager. I'm here today to talk to you about Tallahassee, our annual update and preparedness for the legislative session. And I will tell you that according to the committee weeks that we've had the past 2 weeks, it's going to be dominated by the budget and property tax. I think every headline, if you read it, property tax is front and center. And so I'm going to go through a presentation. I put a lot of things in this slide presentation because we will post this on our website. And I believe that our citizens will benefit by having as much information as possible. I'd also like to be able to post some resources that the Florida Association of Counties has made available. They're not advocacy resources, but education resources. And I think as we go through the year, it will help the citizens understand what property tax funds and what it does not fund, what services it does provide and what services it doesn't provide. And I think that all public policy, strong, sustainable public policy is best when the electorate is educated. So I would like to be able to do that if you have no objection. So let me just go through here and give you kind of an update of where we are. I do want to also, we have our Tallahassee team in the audience, and they may have to leave, so I want to introduce you to Kim Sugar and Alexis Kiernan. They're with the Aero Group. We have a new team. We also have Ken Pruitt is still with us from P5. He's probably watching online. But then our Tallahassee team is amazing, so I appreciate y'all being here. I've included in your packet, or you will get this, we've talked about this, the legislative dates, just so that you'll know the session does start in January, and it will go to March, and the FACT legislative day is January 21st. We normally do participate in that, so I just wanted to have that on your calendars. Am I supposed to be switching this and was thinking you were doing that, okay. All right. I want to say congratulations to Senator Boyd. He was just recently elected the Senate President, so he will be the Senate President-elect. And of course, we have Senator Al Britton, who's really still promoting his rural development and infrastructure via the Rural Renaissance Initiative. It didn't get as much traction as he wanted last session, but I think he has not given up on that, so he's going to be pursuing that this year. Speaker Perez has been very vocal on tax reform this year, and recently we had multiple bills. Actually, they were joint resolutions dropped, and his primary goal this year, I believe, is to put the tax reform to the voters. So that's his priority. Affordable housing, healthcare, property insurance remains to be on his list, but he is very definitely focusing on tax reform. And congratulations to Representative Sam Garrison, who is the House Speaker-elect. He was quite emotional during his speech. And I think it's kind of interesting that the legislature respects the diversity of our state. We have a current speaker from Miami and a House Speaker-elect from Clay County. And there doesn't seem to be a lot of light between them in terms of philosophy. So I think it's interesting. Senator Grahl continues to be a strong advocate for us, and we will be meeting with her tomorrow after the delegation meeting. Those are her committee assignments. We'll be talking to her about all of these initiatives, and we work with her staff all the time. They call here and with questions, and we help with the constituencies that have inquiries about our process. Sometimes, mostly it's permitting, or every now and then it's something to do with a service that we can give them some clarity on. Representative Brackett has new committee assignments, so congratulations to him on that. I also want to point out that he has recently dropped a bill, HB 105. That bill is, I'm going to just give you my summary of it. It's basically a direct message to local governments, and that includes special districts, about the permitting review process. And his message is that when you're reviewing a permit, that make sure that your review is tied to an ordinance or a statute. And he doesn't want staff to exercise any liberties in the review, and it gives the applicant, if they decide to take legal action, attorney's fees. So that will be an interesting discussion. And then next in here is just our overarching guiding principles that we ask for you to approve every year, just so that we have the guardrails. And of course, county home rule, preemptive legislation. We support home rule. We oppose preemptive legislation. We oppose unfunded mandates, although that our opposition doesn't seem to carry a lot of weight sometimes. But we continue to do that. The one-size-fits-all solutions we are opposed to, and we have obviously, we support Small County Coalition and the Florida Association of Counties. We're very active, and of course, we have Commissioner Adams that's very engaged, and you all sit on several of the committees. So it's always helpful when you are at the policy meetings and you understand what the policies are that the association is supporting, because sometimes the Small County Coalition will be much more aligned to some things that are important to us, because the Florida Association of Counties obviously has to represent not only the very, very large counties, but the small counties. And so Small County Coalition does sometimes tend to be a voice for us that we don't have other places. But both associations are very strong, and we appreciate all of the resources that they provide for us. So I discussed this. I just wanted to give you an idea of what just one of the resources is that the association offers, and this is just an information sheet that I'd like to put on the web page. And they also have a video. We will be working to develop some of our own more specific information pieces so that we can make sure that Indian River County citizens understand property tax and all of the scenarios. And later down the road, if you all are interested in having any kind of workshop, some of the counties are deciding to have a public workshop and take some of the scenarios that are being thrown out there and walk through what that might look like if it passed. If you're interested in doing that, we certainly can arrange for that. So here is just kind of an overview of the latest, and this is as of Friday at noon, that there were 8 or so bills passed. Those are the joint resolutions. That's kind of an overview of what's in those. We do anticipate that there will be quite a few more, and the Senate has not really engaged yet. So this is just what it looks like on the House side. And there is a regular bill that was dropped, H.R. 215. The joint resolutions are 207, 209, 211, and 213 for anyone out there that wants to keep track and look those up. So our priorities on the policy side are septic to sewer conversion. Y'all had a very lively discussion with Howard and Sean Leesky on septic to sewer, and it was loud and clear that you want us to advocate for an extension of the 2030 deadline because it is not feasible in terms of financing or getting the private side citizen to be able to afford to upgrade their system by 2030. However, we are working on flexibility in the language. The grant side, I will tell you, the grant language, we have tried with DEP to get flexibility to use the dollars not just on the wastewater side, but also on the water side. And that has not been successful, so we will have an appropriation for that. I'll talk about that in a minute. But for this particular, for the policy side, we are advocating for some help for the citizen, whether it be through a loan or a rebate. There's a lot of different options out there. Staff covered those for you at the last meeting. So we will continue to push for that. Inmate medical is a bill, a local bill that we need to, if you approve it, we will need to get moving on that. We've talked to Representative Brackett, and he is willing to sponsor that bill. And so we would need to ask for that tomorrow. Tomorrow's meeting will count as a public hearing. And a local bill has much stricter advertising requirements than a regular bill. So it will have to move quickly. But what, in essence, I'll just switch over here so you can see this. In essence, what a local bill will do for us is put a cap on the services provided to off-site medical. It will also prohibit the local healthcare providers from creating a monopoly because of their proximity. So it basically keeps all of the healthcare costs in check and will hopefully save money in the process. SB 180, as you might remember, last session was kind of termed as the hurricane relief bill, but it had some pretty significant unintended consequences. We've met across departments. Susan Prado's we've been working together quite a bit. We do have some issues with this bill, but we're not the only ones. Statewide, there's a lot of people objecting to many of the provisions in this bill. So we are hoping to advocate for some changes. One bill has already been filed, but we anticipate there will be many, many more. The Senator DeSigley has said that he understands that it needs some changes and some review. I don't know what's going to happen on the House side necessarily, but we do believe that it may not be a full-blown glitch bill, but there will be some relief because there are some provisions in this bill that prohibit us from meeting other statutory requirements, specifically related to comp plan amendments. And Department of Commerce is interpreting it pretty broadly. So then, of course, on the other side, the last policy thing that we really are going to make sure that we're advocating for is the fully funding of all state grant programs staff over the last couple of years. Legislature sent a message pretty strong that in lieu of appropriation requests, they would like to see us exercise grant applications, and our staff has done amazing. Utilities has quite a few of them in the hopper right now, so we're hoping to hear something positive. These are here every year. I have them here so that you can bless them, and and they're also educational when we post this. So I'm just going to breeze through these. Did I skip appropriations? No. Okay, so on appropriations, our priorities are septic to sewer. We have a grant for Exora Park and Orchid Island Estates project that we received, but like I was alluding to earlier, the language does not allow us to use those grant dollars for the public water side connection. We had multiple conversations with DEP, and the language is in the statute just doesn't allow them to afford that opportunity, but they said that they were comfortable with us requesting appropriations for that, so here we are. We are going to request dollars for Exora Park and Orchid Island Estates project. We're also going to ask for, I hate to call it a matching fund appropriation, but something to demonstrate that there is state support for the Fellsmere Public Library Community Resource Center. As you will recall, Congressman Herodopoulos was able to get a House side earmark. We're hearing that that's pretty secure, even though they have made cuts to other areas. We're hoping that that does go through, and we're going to request the state legislature to do the same, and I'm happy to report, and Commissioner Adams, feel free to jump in there, but Fellsmere, City of Fellsmere has decided that they are going to secure land, and that would be an in-kind donation or an in-kind contribution to this overall initiative. This is a long-term initiative, and I want to temper everybody's expectations, but I think it's much needed. It's got a lot of attention, and it has a lot of value in terms of bringing resources into an area that really doesn't have resources available. So we're going to continue to knock at the door, and hopefully long-term we'll be able to fund it. And then I'm also, with your blessing, kind of looking at an Indian River Lagoon community pilot project or a septic to sewer citizen project. And we still have time to get appropriation requests in, albeit not a whole lot of time, but we have been having discussions, and there is some interest in this. Perhaps we could do something with a nonprofit that owns property along the Indian River Lagoon and maybe put in a native plant barrier that would have phosphorus and nitrogen uptake to give us maybe some credits for BMAPs over time. Well, last year, very recently actually, Natural Resources has been working with the ARC to build oyster mats for docks, and that's another opportunity. It's not something I think we really need to ask an appropriation for because it doesn't cost a lot of money, but it does bring significant awareness. I do think that a native barrier shoreline buffer would be significant in terms of the benefits to the overall water quality of the lagoon. And then absent that, I still want to do bioswales somewhere in the county, but we're not quite there yet. I think there's some maintenance issues to that, but at some point I really would like to see us do some kind of initiative that way because it really helps with the stormwater flow into the lagoon, and it's a way to also bring awareness to the need for all of the ditches and the canals in the county, not to be dumping grounds, but to be that people know that those are channels. They're ways for us to get water off of their property, clean it up as it travels through before it gets to the lagoon. So I'm really working with trying to talk with other partners to see if there's a way that we can expand some of the things that we're doing. And then finally, I want to just put on your radars, I do all the time, the federal issues that we're monitoring. Even though we don't have a full-blown federal initiative, it's important for us to track these issues because they do have an impact on us as a county. They have an impact statewide. The FEMA Reform Act will impact it will impact everybody, but obviously Florida and all of the states that, Texas, Louisiana, next to the coastline, it's going to be significant. We always monitor WRDA, the NFIP. You're familiar with the lead pipe inventory that's been going on. We're in, a couple of years now doing the inventory for that. And luckily, we have not found any in Indian River County. But at the federal level, PFAS is still, or PFAS, however you want to say it, is still an issue. The regulations are going to require us to do some monitoring, and all of those things are expensive. And in addition to that, the federal government is talking about reducing the SRF funding, state revolving funds, which funds the infrastructure that helps rectify whatever they're going to do in terms of regulation. So it's important for us. There's a lot of different scenarios, but I think it's important for us to monitor what's going on there because once it passes a couple of years later, it's really hitting us. So it gives us an idea of how to plan for our needs here. And the Big Beautiful Bill has not been as impactful to the state of Florida as it has been to other states, but it still has a significant impact. And so Florida Association of Counties is working with the intergovs, all of us, all over the state, to assess that impact and determine what that means for us long-term. So at this time, I would like for you to approve the recommendation is to authorize us to continue forward as I've outlined with our priorities, and then authorize staff to take the necessary steps to present the local bill regarding compensation for healthcare services for inmates in Indian River County at the 2026 Indian River County Delegation Meeting, and to move forward with the advertising requirements for the filing of a local bill. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Kathy. And again, as a reminder, the legislative day is when?
The 21st, did I say?
Tomorrow.
It's tomorrow morning.
Oh, the legislative delegation is tomorrow, I'm sorry.
Delegation
I
is
thought you were
tomorrow.
talking back
Yes.
legislative day, yes. The legislative delegation is tomorrow. It'll be right here,
9 a.m.
In this room.
9 to
at
12.
9 a.m.
Mhm.
And we'll have an opportunity. And
County administrator will be
public is
speaking,
invited
yes.
as well. Just need to register.
And we'll have it'll be set up just like this. It'll be recorded and shared.
Just as a reminder.
Yes, thank you.
Does anybody have anything
I-
for Kathy regarding this?
I do have a few comments, if it's okay. First, I want to thank Representative Brackett for agreeing to sponsor the inmate medical bill. He's been very supportive of that. And just for my fellow commissioners, this is something that St. Lucie and Martin County have also done in the past, and it will help control those costs and protect us moving forward in that regard. So I'm very pleased that this is on our agenda for this year. Senate Bill 180, as you guys know, that will, at the legislative luncheon, there was some discussion around that. There's been a lot of work and a lot of discussion across the state about unintended consequences associated with that. Manatee County has been very much advocating. In fact, they spent the week last week up in Tallahassee advocating on a couple of different things, but Senate Bill 180 was one of their main discussion points. The original bill sponsor has acknowledged some of those unintended consequences, and I think this is a great example of one of those fixed bills. You know, you try to solve a problem, and sometimes if you paint it with too wide a brush, you create more problems in the interim. So it's not often that the legislature acknowledges some of those I don't want to say it was a mistake, but some of those unintended consequences, and has discussions around how to fix that and kind of commits to those conversations. And I know you've heard our local delegation even speak about the need to kind of tweak that. So I would just ask my fellow commissioners to either stay engaged in those conversations or allow staff to be actively involved in advocating, because right now the State Association of Counties is asking for information to compile, suggested language and that type of thing. Like, what are we seeing in our county? And what we're seeing is not necessarily the same thing that Polk County or Manatee County is seeing, but it's all adds to how we're going to craft the language to kind of present and be part of that fix. Because I think that's always one of the struggles, is having the local governments be part of crafting what that looks like, the boots on the ground being part of that conversation. So it's really important to see that move forward. I do also want to take the opportunity just to thank the City of Fellsmere for the Library and Community Resource Center. They came and met with us to see what the needs were related to Herodopolis's appropriation, and look at property in that area. They have identified as a city council some property and have committed to doing that as an in-kind, which we're very thankful for the swiftness with which they moved, but also with the location and the size of that property. It's approximately 10 acres, which will give us plenty of room to kind of utilize that resource center as a true resource center and a library, and a couple of other things from an emergency management staging perspective, which is vastly needed in the western part of the county. So I just want to thank them. And then lastly, I know Kathy mentioned we don't really engage that much on a federal level. But one of the things that we are seeing a huge conversation around right now at NACO, which is the National Association of Counties, is the FEMA Reform Act. It's hugely impactful to, well, all states, but it's very much impactful to Florida and some of our Gulf Coast neighbors. So that Gulf Coast Coalition is working and having a lot of conversations about that. It's a big topic of conversation that we're following, and so I appreciate the fact that that's on the list. Of course, WRDA and PFAS is also something, at the national level, you end up with a lot of acronyms, so it sounds cooler than what it is sometimes, but I appreciate us being engaged in that, because we don't see the impacts of some of the federal legislation as quickly as we do the state legislation, but what it does impact is the availability of dollars coming to the state, and then that trickles down to us. And by trickle, I mean it kind of dries up. It doesn't necessarily trickle because they're cutting those dollars back. So we do need to continue to be engaged and follow what is going on a national level from that perspective. It's very important to our future funding, because we will start seeing that in the next coming years. But other than that, I really appreciate the inmate medical and the quickness with which Representative Brackett has agreed and has been working with staff on language. So, great job, Kathy, and always appreciate how well you represent us in Tallahassee and with our congressmen and senators in DC. You have a great working relationship with them that I think a lot of other counties don't necessarily have, and it has been very fruitful for us. So thank you for that.
Thank you. And on the Senate, the local bill, the inmate medical bill, you are correct. St. Lucie and Martin County did both do a local bill. We have modeled ours after Martin County because they added transportation and they refined it a little bit more. Plus, their county is similar to ours. And so we looked at both, but we did model it after Martin County.
And I would also just like to add that what we're asking for is exactly what the state has, the Florida Department of Corrections. So we're not like going outside the rails asking for something unique. We're asking for to make sure that we're protected, because we have, as people have said, we have limited resources in terms of for off-site, inmate medical services.
And actually, that is what both St. Lucie and Martin County did, is just let it, whatever goes to the correctional facilities is mimicked in the counties. So it makes sense.
Just as a follow-up, real quick, Mr. Chair, on the property tax issue, for those commissioners that are planning to attend the legislative conference, there will be a big discussion on property tax, what it looks like. I mean, it's ever-changing. As Kathy mentioned, the Senate has not weighed in on what they want to do, and whatever comes out of the legislatures will have to be a combined effort of the two. So the House has kind of taken the lead. The Senate is, I think, sitting back and kind of monitoring and seeing where they want to go with it. But we will have a big discussion at conference. The association has created a property tax task force. I do sit on that, so I will be happy to bring back as much information as possible to share with you guys, but also with our staff. We are going to need to stay engaged on that. Nobody really knows where it's going to end up and what direction. There's just a lot of different ideas and a lot of different paths to get to the result that they're looking for. So I think it's really going to be important for us to communicate not only with the state, but also educate our residents on what's going on there. So just FYI on that, if you guys are planning to go, I would highly encourage you to sit in on that discussion, whether it's your policy committee or not. But I also want to thank all the commissioners for participating in those policy committees and being part of those conversations. It's really impressive to see all of you guys representing Indian River County on different policy committees. Not every county has all their commissioners as part of that, so thank you guys for doing that.
Thank you.
That's right.
Mr. Chair, I'll just add with respect to the inmate medical, keep in mind that our representatives have a finite amount of bills that they can sponsor. I think it's 8. So we should be very proud of Representative Brackett, and ultimately will save these taxpayers dollars. I yield my time, sir.
Thank you. Anything further? How about a motion to approve the legislative priorities and so we can go forward?
So moved, including the local bill.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Adams, seconded by Commissioner Moss. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Mark of a good presentation.
Thank you. And Mr. Chairman, if I could just say a big thank you to staff. The legislative process is chaotic, and I want to say the Office of Counsel and so many different departments, as at the end of last legislative session, we went through and scrubbed the bills to make sure that we were in compliance, and I'll be happy to say that we are. And we still look, and there's some refinements that we still need to do, and we may need to bring an ordinance or two back, but for the most part, we're working very well together. And as we move forward, it's going to be important that all the departments have an opportunity to comment on bills as they come in, but a lot of times people ask for us to crunch numbers in a hurry so that our legislators understand what the impact is to our county, and that takes them off of something else that they're doing. So I just want to in advance say thank you and let you know that people really truly do participate in the legislative process, even though you don't see it all the time. We have a great team. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, before we get to the next item, I'm being urged for a brief break, so we're going to take a 5-minute recess. Thank you. I don't know you. We'll now be resuming back to order, and we'll begin with natural resources, item 13F1, which is award for bid for 2025060, Sector 5 Hurricane Ian and Nicole Beach and Dune Restoration Project.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good
Quentin
morning.
Bergman, your Coastal Resource Manager in the Natural Resources Department. Today, I've got a presentation for you on our Sector 5, upcoming Sector 5 project. So I've actually got two presentations, and I've got two items back to back. So I'm going to give first a presentation on the award of bid, and then I can go right into the construction oversight work order after you vote on the award of bid. So Sector 5 was impacted by Hurricanes Ian and Nicole. I'm going to step back here a minute. Why do we do beach renourishment? Why do we do beach management? Beaches are really important for what I say to folks is three important aspects. One is that it protects, the beach and dune system protects upland infrastructure. Not only do we have public parks and public infrastructure there, but there's public infrastructure right behind all of the private properties. A1A, utility lines, power lines, that's all important. Number two, the number two reason we do beach management strategies is that the beaches is a economic engine. We have a lot of tourism, a lot of people move here for the beaches, and then number three is that the beaches serve as crucial habitat for marine life, such as sea turtles. So back in 2022, we had Hurricanes Ian and Nicole. Hurricane Ian produced 11-foot wave heights offshore, and Hurricane Nicole produced 19-foot wave heights offshore. According to our post-storm engineering report, Sector 5 experienced an average dune retreat of 19.4 feet. This project is to address some of those damages. So here are some photos right after the hurricanes. We've got Ocean Club 1, 2, and 3, a condominium. You can see here that there's some patios that fell onto the beach after the erosion. You also have on the lower corner, you have Tracking Station Beach Park. We had infrastructure, dune crossovers that were damaged, have since been repaired. And then also the Con Beach Boardwalk. That is a hot spot in our Sector 5 area. So just to recap some, reason why this project is occurring at this time. For those that don't know, Sector 5 is located in the city of Vero Beach and a little bit into Indian River Shores. The project area is about 3.1 miles long. This project is designed to place about 153,000 cubic yards. That's equivalent to about 49 Olympic-sized swimming pools. This project is also going to receive native salt-tolerant dune plants, more than 100,000 plants to be installed on top of the dune. It's important to note, too, that the repaired dune height is not going to exceed the pre-storm elevation. The dune and beach is going to extend just a bit in towards the water, towards the east. So you can see here on the map I've provided some of the major landmarks that people are familiar with. Tracking Station in the north and Rio Mar Beach access to the south. We advertised the project on September 3rd. We had bid opening on October 6th, and we were lucky enough to have 6 bidders submit competitive bids. County staff and consultants performed the review of the bid submittals. You can see here that there was a good grouping in the price. We didn't have too much of a spread. We feel confident about this. Touch on the funding a bit. The county's been awarded a total over $3 million in potential reimbursement funding through FEMA, FDEM, and FDEP. You can see the breakdown there with the FEMA FDEM grants and the FDEP grant the county received. The county's share is estimated to be a little above $3.3 million. It's important to note, too, that the local funding for beach restoration and all of beach management is provided by a portion of the tourist development tax. That's not the general fund, that is a different revenue. And DEP is currently reviewing an additional grant request submitted by the county. So there is some potential for additional funding. To touch upon the project timeline, we are anticipating starting construction next month if this is approved, and the construction will be wrapped up in April. We are not allowed to continue into May because that is the bulk sea turtle nesting activity will happen in the summer months. And then it's also important to note too that we will have post-construction monitoring after the project is complete. Something that we did with the last beach renourishment project that we're continuing forward with as well is a no work schedule. So around the holidays, you can see here between November 26th and 30th, there will be no work, as well as December 24th to January 2nd. That will, I think, go over well with our community. So staff's recommendation that the Sector 5 Hurricanes Ian and Nicole and Beach and Dune Restoration Project be awarded to Gettler Brothers Construction in the amount of $6,552,125. And request that the Board of County Commissioners approve the sample agreement and authorize the chairman to execute said agreement after review and approval of the agreement by the county attorney as to form of legal sufficiency and after receipt and approval of the required public construction bond and insurance. With that, any questions on the award of bid?
Are there any questions, Commissioner?
Mr. Chairman, this got presented to the Beach and Shore also, and Beach and Shore, of course, went along with it. Thought it was a great idea. And I must say, I attribute a lot of this ease of this process because of our staff. Quentin, Eric, Kylie, and the crew, they're known statewide for what they do and how they do it. And the fact that we got this many bidders this time and actually came under what was estimated of the cost a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. On this, and that's a positive note too. So I just can't tell you how grateful I am for staff and what they do. And with that, I would move approval for staff's recommendation.
Well, certainly. Eager to sign this. So sounds like we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Quentin, you got a 5-0.
There we go. I will note too, Commissioner Ehrman, that our engineering estimate for this project was between 7.5 and 8.5 million, so it was a very good aspect that we got a bid in under our estimated value.
Well, Quentin, you just received a very nice compliment bestowed by our Beach and Shores Commissioner, and I'll echo that as well. But you just got another recent compliment, and that's from Congressman Mike Haradopoulos. Yeah. So apparently, the walk on the beach and the understanding that was given about our beaches was rather significant. So much so that he gave a call the other night, and we talked a little bit, and he is very concerned about the future of the beaches. And in his concern, he asked, how much depletion did you incur during the recent storms? Even though we had nothing on land, he said, I trust the beaches got hit. I advised him that the full report and assessment had been delayed due to the weather. But if that's fully available, Congressman Haradopoulos would like to have that information as well. He's
Certainly.
Very interested.
Yeah, we can certainly send that to him.
And the full report is ready?
We did a beach observation report where staff goes out and we capture before photos and after photos and do a preliminary assessment on the amount of erosion. The results of that report show that we had minor beach and dune erosion as expected, so the project performed as anticipated. The dune was chewed up a little bit, but nothing catastrophic, nothing that would require us to do any emergency sand placement after the passing of Hurricane Imelda, tied in with the king tides at the same time.
And that's what I told him as a preliminary. Mm-hmm. But if we have any further information, if he wants to help, I also invited him to many of our subject to sewer challenges, but let's address the beach first.
Wonderful.
Quentin, let's, Mr. Chairman, if I could.
Yes.
Might as well take the time to talk about something good. Let them know about the turtles, how well we did on the
Yeah.
turtles so far this year, since we're coming up to the end of it. I know you'll have a
Yes.
final count, but
Certainly, certainly. So October is a great month for us because it marks the end of the nesting season, October 31st. This year that we had a record-breaking season. So in 2023, the green sea turtle set a new record, and that was broken by a few hundred nests this season, which is great to see. And we believe we sent out some press releases on it, and a couple of the local media outlets picked up the story and helped spread the word about the good news.
Thank you. All right, now we have another one coming up.
Yes.
The next item is 13F2, which is work order number 2018029 sub 14, which is the Sector 5 Hurricanes Ian and Nicole Beach Dune Restoration Project and Construction Administration.
Yes. Thank you. This next item is contingent on the first, so we wanted to put them together. That way, if one did not pass, the other would not pass as well. So this is the construction oversight work order through Aptum Environmental Protection. So the Sector 5 project requires strict adherence with numerous permit requirements. These projects are permitted through the DEP as well as the Army Corps. Quite substantial permits if you ever want some reading. The proposed work order from Aptum provides professional engineering services in support of construction administration and construction oversight during this project. The recommendation is that the BCC authorize work order number 2018029-14 and the total lump sum amount of $412,630.55. Additionally, staff recommends that BCC authorize the chairman to execute work order number 14 after review and approval of the agreement by the county attorney as to form and legal sufficiency. And with that, any questions on the construction oversight work order?
Any questions of Quentin?
move recommendation.
Second. We have a motion by Commissioner Airman, seconded by myself. Any further discussion? Shooting for a 5-0. All in favor? Opposed?
Thank you, Commissioners.
Excellent, thank you. Next item, item 13H2, is environmental land acquisition status update regarding the purchase contract of Winter Beach 73rd. Good morning. Well, it wouldn't be complete without the dynamic duo. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you. So today's items under departmental items for Parks, Recreation, and Conservation include two more basically informational presentations on two parcels that have made their way through our process. So we will open up our presentation and go through some of the information in terms of the basics of the bond referendum. And I like to do this, I realize you guys have heard this 15 gazillion times, but I always recognize that there may be members of the public who are new to our community or in the audience who may or may not have this basic information. So in 2022, the bond was approved by the voters for $50 million. This bond is specifically allocated to purchase environmentally significant land. Unlike our first two bond referendums, the second one included historically significant parcels. This bond does not do that, so the merit of acquisition and ranking is based solely on the environmental nature of the properties. The Environmental Land Acquisition Panel ranks each of the properties based on qualitative and quantitative factors that are shown here, and I won't go into too much detail. We would encourage anyone who has questions to reach out to our office so that we can explain that process and how they may be able to participate in nominating parcels that are important to them or that they feel should be acquired under this program. This is just a sample of the scoring matrix. Tonight we will be meeting with the ELAP to rank our nomination period 3 properties. And this is the form that everyone fills out. They have a weighted ranking criteria based on the different factors that were on the previous slide. So we're going to go over 2 different properties today. There's no action on your behalf, but this provides everyone an ability to understand the different properties that are being considered for approval. We'll be bringing those back in the November board meetings to move forward with contract purchases. And I will turn it over to Wendy and navigate the slideshow.
Thanks, Beth. So the first parcel that we want to talk to you about is located on Jungle Trail, which is obviously a nationally registered road in this county, one of the few in the state. It's a very interesting parcel in that it looks very similar to what we started with at Jones's Pier Conservation Area. If you look on the 1943 arrow, you can see it was primarily citrus. At that point, one of the important aspects of this nomination is the northern boundary abuts the Captain Forrester Hammock Preserve, and the parcel is 19.6 acres in size. You can see on the flyover that we're going to do here. To the right is the existing subdivision that shares a road when this was originally planned to be developed as a residential property. You can see that the parcel's been primarily cleared and is now consisting mostly of grassy areas. So we're going to turn the bend here, and you're going to see Captain Forrester, which is our lovely hammock preserve, one of the few remaining maritime hammocks under public ownership in the county. And that would be the parking area for Captain Forrester right there. And then we come back around. Sorry, I'm getting kind of dizzy here as we zip along at the speed of light. So this site affords a lot of unique opportunities similar to, as I mentioned, Jones's Pier. So currently the site is zoned as RS3, which is 3 units per acre for residential development. Next slide. And pursuant to the bond referendum, we have to solicit 2 appraisals. Those appraisals were solicited. We had one for $5.655 and one for $5 million. Based on negotiations with our bond consultant, a price was agreed upon at $5.85 million, which is about 3% above the highest appraisal. And this will be brought to the board for final consideration, as Beth mentioned, on November 4th. The Environmental Lands Acquisition Panel is going to review those appraisals and provide us feedback tonight, hopefully, on their consideration of the appraisals as well as the agreement. And then, as I mentioned, this will be brought back before the commission, and then we would, if it's approved by the commission, then we would enter into the due diligence period. If acquired, the proposed use of the property is for public recreation. Prior to the conversion of a citrus grove, as I mentioned in the previous proposals that we brought before you, a lot of these areas were herbaceous salt marsh, which is a community, a natural community in our county that is very diminishing. So one of the highlights of this particular parcel, as we're showing you a view of Jones's Pier, is that we have a similar opportunity to create some herbaceous wetlands and also hopefully alleviate some of the flooding issues that we have at Captain Forrester. So why is it so important to create herbaceous salt marsh? I think I've mentioned this before, but for those of the community that haven't understood a little bit of that, back in the 40s and 50s, most of this salt marsh was created, was impounded and turned into mangrove wetlands. So our ability to restore that herbaceous salt marsh is really important. It provides the opportunity for us to create wetlands that can remove nutrients from the lagoon and provide all that amazing habitat, and also provide a resilient project that will withstand a lot of changing environmental conditions. Salt marsh is one of the easiest communities for us to create and manage, and as we've seen at Jones's Pier, it provides amazing habitat. So now we're going to move into the next nomination, which is the parcel on Winter Beach 73rd. These aerials also show the existing land use. For aerial nerds like me, the 1943 aerial shows you that very light gray signature. That is salt marsh. That is herbaceous, grassy wetlands. So you can see when you compare that to the 2004 aerial, that area, once it became impounded, is now mangrove. And the larger sort of circular area you see, that's dominated by Australian pine. So there's a lot of opportunity for restoration on this particular site as well. This is a Tier 1 property that's located on the south side of 73rd Street. It's approximately 36.99 acres in size. The current zoning is RS3, which is 3 residential units per acre. To the west of this site, GHO Homes has purchased almost the balance of that entire area through to US 1. So it was viewed as pretty important that this site get conserved, as there is pending development to the west. There are jurisdictional wetlands, which obviously affect the appraised value of that parcel. However, in consideration through the appraisal process, sometimes they can look at that as a value in terms of increasing the overall density calculations for the site for development. So as we fly over this site, you're seeing the mangrove impoundment, and that area that's sort of the dark sliver would be a trail that we could convert into a public access trail, similar to Lagoon Greenway. And then as you fly over, you're going to see a lot of the hammock area that could be restored, and we could put some additional wildlife trails in there, and affords an area for parking and possibly picnicking area. As we go zipping across the lagoon here, that is hole-in-the-wall island that you see. So certainly if we do something such as put in a kayak launch or some sort of recreational amenity like that, there would be nearby areas for hiking. This is an overall view, as you can see the parcel. And the land to the south of this is owned by the Water Management District. It is not in conservation, but it is in public ownership. So similar to the other parcel, 2 appraisals were completed here. We had one come back at $1.455 million, and the other appraisal come back at $1.64 million. The consultant was able to successfully negotiate a contract with the owner for $1.59 million, which is in between the 2 appraisals. Per the guidelines, we have public noticed this appraisal, and we will be bringing this back to the board at the November 18th meeting for consideration of the agreement. So as with the other parcel, we're going to be presenting this at the ELAT meeting tonight to solicit their feedback and let you know their consideration in terms of their support for the project. And we will bring you back their feedback at the November 18th meeting. Should the board approve the execution of the agreement at that 18th meeting, there will be a 60-day due diligence period where we can obviously investigate the property to make sure that there's no encumbrances or issues on the site that would prevent the county from using it for its intended purpose. Upon completion of the due diligence period, the county is required to complete the closing within 60 days. And we will, at that point, bring back the due diligence information as well as a conceptual plan for the board to consider in terms of entering to purchase the property in a final status. So for these restoration projects, similar to what I mentioned on Jungle Trail, this site, we've already been approached by the Water Management District they're very interested in these lagoon front properties that have mosquito impoundments, similar to the South Oslo project that you have approved. They would like to enhance wetlands, and one of the enhancement opportunities would be to reconnect that impoundment more effectively to make those mangroves function at a higher level. So if the property were acquired, then we would be looking at the passive recreation opportunities in terms of trails and picnicking areas and possible kayak launches and things like that. And we would also be strongly looking at the habitat enhancement opportunities, in particular with leveraging that funding and also looking at those uplands on the site. It's not a very lovely picture on the left, but that is a hammock area that those also are diminishing resources in our county, so the ability to recreate hammock is an important component of this project. So similarly, that we mentioned, herbaceous salt marsh is a diminishing resource because it was impounded. We showed you the example of how that happens. Even though this won't be necessarily herbaceous salt marsh, the reconnection of that project, as I mentioned, can be similar to South Oslo, where the removal of the berm down there is completely reconnecting that impoundment, which is really going to enhance fisheries and provide a significant amount of wildlife benefit. That also drives the biodiversity aspects. The more types of communities you have, both upland and wetland on a site, the higher your biodiversity is, the more species basically that can utilize an area because there's habitat present. Mangroves, similar to every wetland community, also provide a strong component for filtration of pollutants and removing nutrients from lagoon waters. And they also provide really critical nursery habitat for fisheries and invertebrates. So this project will be, as all the lagoon front projects, looked at from a resiliency perspective. There's this huge amount of funding for resilient projects, so we will be looking towards how can we maximize our ability to leverage that funding and also create a project that's going to withstand the test of time considering changing conditions along the lagoon. And then, as I mentioned, providing that restoration component for the uplands is really important. Those uplands not only serve a habitat function for wildlife, but they also provide a really critical buffer to the lagoon, and considering the adjacent development that's proposed to the west, for this particular parcel, that's pretty important. So potential recreation opportunities, nature trails, wetland overlooks, kayak launching, wildlife viewing. We have a very robust environmental education and volunteer program at this point, and we would certainly expand that to include both of these properties. I think for the Jungle Club property in particular, linking that to Captain Forester in a meaningful way, which, as you know, Captain Forester is owned by the state, but the county manages that property. We have a lot of issues on Captain Forester relative to flooding and also expanding that amenity to link those two properties and provide the maritime hammock aspect as well as the created salt marsh and all of that, I think would provide a really unique opportunity for the public. So consistency with the environmental bond. Both of these projects do have development plans in place, so eliminating that potential for development adjacent to the lagoon is a very critical factor. Obviously, creating habitat adjacent to the lagoon for wildlife on a property that really has been not managed effectively in both cases will bring back some additional habitat and biodiversity. Both properties have the potential for having some form of water quality improvement for the lagoon. We discussed the resiliency nature of both of these sites, and certainly that is a strong consideration with the potential funding sources. And then very important to all of our acquisitions is the opportunity to construct public access improvements for the people that live in this county so they can really enjoy these areas. With that, if you have any questions. Okay.
These are, other than, of course, you know, I've listed all the conversations. These are two awesome properties, you know, because they're lagoon front oriented. I mean, which is, like Wendy just said, if we don't do something, they're going to get developed by somebody. And it's nothing but positive on this returns. I mean, my only thing is they can't get started quick enough on doing something with it, even after we buy it. You know, I wish we could get moving faster, but yeah. So far I think we've batted 1,000 with ELAP. I think as we get a little lower on the list, we'll be more conversation. But I think these are slam dunks.
Mm-hmm. Does anyone have questions about the process that we're going into now as we're starting to switch from focused on our Tier 1 nomination period 1 parcels to our, now that we're in the third ranking, so we're going to be discussing that tonight. So I'd encourage any members of the public that are interested in following this to come to the ELAP meeting so that you can really understand the process of deliberation which is very informative, in my opinion, because you're really understanding from each of the perspectives. The members of the ELAP were selected and established by the board to do the due diligence from different perspectives. So from a real estate, from natural habitat or ecology, land management perspective, et cetera. And so it's a really healthy process, and the dialogue, I think, is very interesting, but it's also very sound in the way that these decisions are made. And as we're moving into this process, you know, these are kind of uncharted territories because we've not used a tiered system before. And so our expectation is that the tiering can be reconsidered at any time by the ELAP, not necessarily the ranking, because a ranking is done, but we have a lot of movement happening between properties where we do not have a willing seller to properties where we now have a willing seller. And so that changes the landscape. And so the process with the ELAP, because we meet on a monthly basis, is very dynamic and it's shifting, but it's also very structured. And so I'm really proud of the way that the process has been developed, and you've led that charge, you know, in terms of how it was established, having a smaller ELAP as compared to before when we had the larger LAC committee. Has been working, I think, really, really well. And we have a couple properties now where there were no willing seller. For instance, we have hopefully the Roed, we're going to find out about an easement today as to whether or not there's a shift from a willing seller to, or from non-willing seller to a willing seller. And so that changes the landscape. And while we're at the beginning of this process, the $50 million is limited. And as you can see, as we're starting to get in, before we were talking about the fair market value or the tax assessed value, those are not really reflective in when you compare all the properties together, but those we knew were not going to be the numbers that were going to come back on the appraisals. So now that we're starting to see the appraised values come back, we're also going to be entering into the territory of negotiating the conservation easements. And what's really important, I think, during this third bond referendum is that as we're considering those conservation easements, that we're really protecting the public's right to the easement. And that's something just from this conference that I went to. When we're doing things for 30 years, 50 years, 99 years in perpetuity, we have to think beyond the horizon that we can currently see. And that's a challenge and can be very difficult. And so for conservation easements in particular, we're using public money to protect land that's privately being used and managed. And so we're thinking really hard about trying to push our vision beyond the horizon that we can see now. And I think that looking at some of the older HCPs, for instance, has given me some insight to what that might mean. And so I'm really excited about the next phases and really encouraging the public to participate and to be involved and think about how this impacts them. And then the larger scope, one of the speakers earlier from the public had mentioned, you know, growth and development. And I think the county's done a really great job of building in sustainability. The voters have approved the bond, which supports that. So as development maybe is occurring, we're also buying conservation land. And that's why the public's involvement is really critical. We have some parcels like Hobart Scrub that all of you have seen on social media, et cetera. It has a large gopher tortoise population. We're going to be discussing that property tonight. So there are avenues and mechanisms for the public to be engaged and involved. Unfortunately, I don't think that we've seen the engagement and involvement that I would have liked. So we know that generally people support environmental lands and acquisition of those lands, but we don't know which ones are important to them because the participation has been to date fairly low. So I can only encourage people to really be involved. We're going to be talking about tonight, possibly staff involvement in terms of mentioning some of the beachfront parcels. Quentin was just talking to you guys in coastal. There are some coastal concerns and there's some opportunity to protect parcels that are ecologically significant and also very vulnerable to damage, et cetera. So we're going to be talking to the ELAP about that. And then as we end the 5 years of our Scrub Jay HCP, there are parcels still that are undeveloped in the Sebastian Highlands. So we're going to talk a little bit with the ELAP tonight about how they would receive staff input for those two areas, because there's some technical background that we have that maybe the public doesn't have, to be able to suggest or recommend looking at some of these other parcels that we're, quite frankly, not getting in nominations. So, but I'm sorry, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have also.
I just wanted to follow up really quickly, too. We will be bringing back the ELAB list like we did last time, so at one of the next two meetings, you'll be able to see how those properties were ranked, and if there's any, questions or comments at that point. And it's interesting because we're not just doing period 2 and 3 tonight, we're also meshing in the remains of what was done in period 1. So the list will be kind of a combined list, and it's worked very well so far. So anyway, thank you for your time.
Well, thank you. We have a lot of properties that are in contention or consideration, and we look forward to the response back from ELAB, which is tonight. And hopefully we'll be seeing this property once again.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Great presentation. We'll now move on to the county attorney matters, which is item 14A, the sale of the property of 8811 Highway A1A to Sea Oaks Property Owners Association Incorporated.
Good morning, Commissioners. We are back for hopefully our final hearing on the Sea Oaks property. It's been a little while, but I think we've got it all sorted. And so we're here today with the contract to sell the remaining piece of property to Sea Oaks. I believe they have representatives and some of them are here for $859,700. That price represents a departure from the appraisals, but the reason for that, as we have discussed at previous meetings, is there's quite a lot of work that needs to be done as far as removing some of the objects that were there when it was a sewer plant. And Sea Oaks has agreed to take on that responsibility. And so after negotiations with them back and forth, also based upon the easement that we've already sold that restricts some of the use of parts of the property, we agreed that that was a fair price to the county administrator and through our negotiation team, that it was a fair price to them and for us, and it worked out with a deal that we were all happy with. And so at this time, county staff is recommending that we approve the sale of the land to Sea Oaks to allow them to enter due diligence and do all the work they need to do, and they have 90 days to do that, and then we would close shortly thereafter, hopefully, if all goes well. I don't know if Mr. Barquette, anybody wants to add anything to that?
Counselor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bruce Barquette, representing Sea Oaks. I just want to say thank you to Mr. Tutanich and to Chris Hicks, and also to Sean Lesky, who's been a part of this process from the very beginning. And it's been a long haul, and we appreciate the cooperation, and we think we've got a great deal for everybody. So hope you approve it. Thank you. Got any questions? Ask
Thank you.
Chris.
Anybody have any questions of the?
That's not it.
And I will put one more thing on the record, though. They are the only adjoining landowners. The property to the south is owned by the state of Florida. There are no other private landowners, and that's why it was easier to deal with rather than trying to, we didn't need to put it to bid or any of that because they are the adjoining landowners. And they used to own the property, so.
Appreciate the explanation, but I think it was a lot had to do with the parties involved.
Yes.
Great work. Thank you.
Chair, move approval.
Second. I'd say motion by Vice Chairman Law, seconded by myself. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Tell you it was great work. With that, I think we have concluded all of the business, with the exception of if anybody would like to speak about any matter that is not on the agenda that wishes to come forward. Please state your name for the record.
Good morning. This is Lalita Janki, and I'm bringing the topic from last night about the sheriff's budget. As a concerned citizen, I wish that all parties would have started this discussion way earlier than it did, so that in the future, I mean, now the water has already gone over the dam, and I don't know how you can stop anything processing in a worse way than it already is, because this is the first time a county has been sued in this manner. Maybe the county administrator manager could see that anything that requires such big budgets come way in advance, so we prevent this from occurring. A lot of hurt feelings unnecessarily, because we want to support those who take care of us in every different way. We also feel that I feel that there are many people who also need attention in the community, and you got to weigh citizens, whether they work for the hospital, they work for the education system, or wherever they are working, we are taking care of them and their livelihoods. That's all. Thank you. And I know that you all, I've attended many meetings, and I don't know what goes on behind whatever is here, but from what I have seen, I want to thank our representatives here for being as impartial as they can when they work on our behalf of the citizens here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jenke. This was a rather challenging cycle, I think, for all of us at this time. And again, as you attend a lot of meetings, you see that not all discussions happen in that fashion. It was quite concerning. It's now, I understand it will be in the hands of the court. If not, it will be traveling in other avenues. But once again, as you witnessed early this morning, that many negotiations, discussions are fair, equitable, understanding, within the limits of tolerance for the taxpayer and the very people that we represent, as well as those who serve and those who are in need to be supported for that service. So again, thank you for your observation, and I don't believe that it's permanently damaged.
Oh, no.
But I do believe that there was some avenues that we traveled that could have been done better by all.
Thank you. I also want to talk about the protests that take place. Just because a protest is taking place, it doesn't mean that one group or another does not like what is happening in the county and what is going on. It just means we have an option, and we are using our democratic right to speak about how we feel. I do know, as participating with the protest, that over and over and over again, we try to tell people there's no violence. Please do not use violence. Do not come there with anything that could be even interpreted like you're using. I know that we have open carry now, and it's dangerous as far as I'm concerned. And we were very, very firm telling people do not come with anything that could hurt anyone. That something occurred, I do want to say that it was not from the protesters. It was from agitators who came to agitate the protest and pressing buttons, because part of what I did was to make sure that nobody counteracted with those that came to agitate the crowd. So I want to, just say that we're protesting because it's our right to protest, and we were doing it peacefully. And I want to thank those that could see it from that perception. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Lois Wolf. I'm at 109th Street in Fellsmere, Florida. And I came here really to express, after watching the presentation last night over the budget in the sheriff's office, there's been something on my mind that I'm having a hard time reconciling. I am really upset that we can't have a more collegial relationship with the sheriff's office. I'm upset that we're left with this dissension with a group of people that are so important to our community. And I know that there's a financial burden that everyone carries, and it's a very difficult process with budgeting. But on the other end, the part that I'm having a really hard time coming to terms with when I look at the budget is something I'm not really hearing a lot of people talk about. And I only saw one article from the newspaper about it. And it's the project for the animal shelter. And I keep looking at these discussions about not enough money for the sheriff's office, but yet talk about spending $2.5 million to purchase a property and to go back once again to running the county, running an animal shelter. And I just wonder, I know that this has been done in the past, it's being revisited, and to hire 19 people to run an animal shelter when we have the Humane Society, and I'm not sure what the issues are behind it that are regenerating this discussion again, or this project to bring animal control back into county control. But it just seems like all this money now going back to doing something that in years gone by has not been successful, instead of maybe working more closely with the Humane Society. Or I even heard Sheriff Flowers mention something about offering to take over animal control that apparently didn't work out. So I don't understand, I guess I just don't understand why so much money is being spent in the area of animal control when we can't come to terms with what the sheriff says that he needs. And finally, the other piece I'm having a really hard time with is $2.5 million for a property that, at least in my opinion, not quite sure. I know they're saying appraisals are coming in at that. I could understand if someone was taking over the veterinary practice for $2.5 million, but looking at that property and the buildings on it with an appraiser's office that says, I'm hearing it's worth something around 800 and some thousand. Are these appraisals really realistic? And is it really worth $2.5 million for Indian River County to buy that property, to hire 19 people to run an animal shelter? Why aren't we leaving that up to the experts at the Humane Society? And perhaps some money should be given to them to expand what those experts do the best, to take care of animals, and perhaps, you know, divvy up some of that money and give some of it to the sheriff and some of it to the Humane Society. I just really haven't heard much of anything about talk of this project to move animal control back under county control. And so just something I had to express. There may be a lot behind it that I don't know, but I'm not reading or hearing a lot about it, except seeing it appear in the budget, and having a hard time coming to terms with this struggle for money. And I'm not quite seeing animal control back in the county as perhaps the best use of that money. Thank you.
Ma'am, I'm going to take the opportunity, because you've said a lot in the brief time that you're at the podium. Again, there was major discussions on the challenge that we're confronted with animal control and the safe, orderly protection of those animals. And quite frankly, we have had a very good relationship with the Humane Society of Vero Beach and Indian River County. As a matter of fact, in one of our last meetings there, one of the former directors, Joan Carlson, who was a delight to work with and very responsive. She is retired, but she is actually going to assist us in this process, and I'll tell you why. Because we've had animal control officers that were refused the ability to be able to lodge animals. You, the taxpayer, are paying over $780,000 contribution to the Humane Society so that the Humane Society could provide for an ASPCA function that we need. Unfortunately, they've refused because of capacity. So there's an option. You either have to build out that organization or have that organization build out because they don't have any more room for intake, or go the route in which we're obviously going. In doing so, we have to look at the capacity and the cost factors that you mentioned. You're talking about raw land value. We're actually buying the practice, okay? We're buying the facility. There needs to be improvements, but in addition, there's a lot of equipment that is very necessary to conduct that operation, and that is included in that process. So it's a lot, there's a lot more information about that. And finally, you discussed the sheriff's involvement. I had that conversation, and then we had that conversation with the sheriff. It is also a very costly endeavor, but he was actually willing to do that. But again, we would have to build a facility. Either way, there were cost factors that were confronted that had to be addressed to ensure what we're thinking about, and that's dogs and the cats and other of God's creatures that have to be protected, maintained, and secured. And there is a process to do that, and currently the animal control process that we have wasn't being met with receptivity as far as being able to lodge the animals to put them into a safer environment. So much of what you're stating was well discussed and over the past year, and this property became available, and there are a lot of positive factors about it that we will be able to provide the service that the animals require.
Didn't the county have animal control in the past that did not work out as expected?
No, I don't understand
Or
that.
the SPCA?
No, none of
wasn't
that
there?
is
No?
not true.
Mr. Chairman.
Matter of fact, they used to work out of an old trailer, and they were able to, and on 43rd and State Road 60, and they, I was working the road at the time, and I'll tell you what, with an old trailer, they were able to handle the capacity. Agreed, the capacity has risen, but that's a rather large facility, and we should be able to do a better job for those who can't do it themselves, and that's the animals, God's creatures.
Well, and I will just add that as a passionate animal lover, I really do hope that it just doesn't increase the euthanasia rates, because I know the Humane Society works really hard at adoptions, and, you know, when we're talking
We intend
about,
to do the same thing.
you know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Hello again, Lisa Sinersky, Indian River County resident. I didn't know I would be speaking on this subject, but she brought up a very good point that I think a lot of citizens, animal lovers are concerned about. There's a big disconnect in this county with animal control and our Humane Society, and in particular, the missing and deceased animals. For instance, if you were to ask a citizen here, if you find a deceased animal in the roadways, who do you call? And most people's answer is animal control, maybe the Humane Society, but it is not usually typically the Road and Bridge Department like it is here. And I know from experience and for trying to be involved in this matter for quite some time, actually, just in little increments over a few years' time, this is a personal matter to me because actually it's something I can bring up at another time. But I think that it's important that we understand as a community the disconnect between our animal control unit, the Humane Society, and what happens when we find a deceased animal on our roadways, in particular our domestic animals, our pets. And I think that's something that's really important we need to address before we talk about I'm not even really interested in the money and the budgets and all that. I'm interested in the disconnect when somebody loses a pet. They're searching, they're putting messages on Facebook, they're involved in all of these different neighborhood groups and pet searches looking for their animal who may have already been picked up and buried. That's important for me that we understand, which believe me, I've talked to people, they don't know this, that we understand something needs to be addressed. Because if I was to be losing a pet, putting out signs, putting up Post-its everywhere, and being in all these Facebook groups looking for my animal, I'd want some closure. I'd want to know if my animal had already been picked up and buried somewhere. It's important that we are aware of this and that something and some new policy is in place. That way, if and when we have this new animal control facility, that we have some kind of new guideline in place that can help bring closure to people that have been missing an animal that may have already been picked up and brought somewhere. That's another subject, but brought somewhere without them knowing. And I guess my goal would be to have something in place. If Road and Bridge is still the one to pick up these animals, that there is some kind of checklist, some kind of information for them to document what that animal may have looked like to some degree. So somebody that is still looking for their animal can maybe understand that that animal is no longer here and they can stop their search. So anyways, if that's something that is new to any of you, I hope that I can bring awareness to that because, again, it's something that really is personal matter to me, and I think I'll bring that up at another time as to why it's so personal. But I think a lot of people would be really shocked to know that that's something that is happening and that their animal may have already been picked up and placed in the ground. And some people really, we know how much people love their pets. People want closure. And that would break my heart if I knew that I was on a search that is already, over.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I will tell you that the lion's share, and speaking of experience, the lion's share of the calls for concern for animals on a roadway, off the side of the road, deceased or injured, generally get funneled into the sheriff's office. And then animal control is notified. And yes, Road and Bridge does address that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So there is record of a deceased animal. Again, I think you pointed out.
Into whose database?
Well, again, that has to be looked into. but,
Absolutely.
There is calls that go to the sheriff's office. And again, deputies don't handle that process. And oftentimes they'll respond to a deer call or a raccoon call or a cat or dog call, but then that's referred to either Road and Bridge or ANCON, and that's how it's been addressed. But you bring up an interesting point, and that can be further discussed. But I just wanted you to be aware that the lion's share goes right directly to law enforcement because it's easier for people to just dial 911.
Yes.
And then just notify, hey, there's an animal here.
I think, I know I've kind of gotten a little off topic in the sense of the actual facility being built, but I believe that that facility will be involved in this procedure of some kind, meaning people will be getting those, directing those phone calls to that facility, or, you know, calling them as just, who do I call if I see a dead cat on the road? I think my main concern is, okay, I've made the phone call, and then I keep on my day, but if I'm somebody actively looking for my missing pet, I have no clue that somebody called in and said, hey, there's an orange tabby on the side of 8th Street. I'm still on the search. And that's what breaks my heart. And I know for a fact, again, I'm not going to really say this now and open up a bigger can of worms, but I know for a fact that next step. And there's something wrong with that next step. As in, the animal's been picked up, now what? I know what's what, and it's not a good procedure. People need to be able to potentially have a database for the public to look into to say, oh, that was probably my cat. He was probably in that area, and I've been on the search, and it's been a few weeks, and you know, most likely I can stop my hunt because most likely that was my guy. But we don't have that data, I think, available to the public, and I think that's something that I would like to further try and put into place. Because again, if we have a new facility, they're going to be involved in people calling to go, hey, did you find my cat? Has anybody brought this animal in? So it's something I'll bring up at another time, but it is really important, I think, that the general public understand that there's a disconnect and that it's not the typical procedure for other counties to have the Road and Bridge Department pick up the animal. That's my view on that. But ultimately, what I came up here to say, in case I don't have another opportunity, is just, again, for the community to be aware of the SB 180 discussion and the legislative importance of that. But I think it's terminology that a lot of people don't understand. Me in particular, I'm trying to just wrap my head around a lot of cares and concerns, but I think our public, our residents of this county need to understand that it's up to our leaders to support that local agencies still have control over what happens with land use. That's my view. That's my, I guess my, one of my priorities is what happens to the land and the wildlife in this county. And I think everybody needs to understand what that bill means, and that if it is something that is put in place, every county, including ours, loses the ability to say what happens with land use and future development. That would just be devastating. It breaks my heart to even know that that's something that's floating around, and that we see what we're seeing here, and that could even be more out of our control. So I think it's just important for the community to be up and up on that, and that we come to these meetings as much as we can, and that we are trying to get more well-versed in these topics, because I know that it's up to our leaders to make sure that doesn't happen for this community. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you all. This meeting is adjourned.